So I'm going to tell a little story. Part of what moved me into the performing arts. So I'm sitting in, my girlfriend in high school is involved in theater, thespian, all that stuff. And we start dating, and she wants me to participate in her world. So there's, the high school plays going on, and it's in Hair at the Wind, and she's not in it. She was. She had a very small part in it, and I was in the audience watching it. And like a guy in my class, Guy Clark, was in it. A younger person in my sister's class, this guy Kyle Feisick, he was in it, playing the lead roles. And I'm watching this play, and I see this attractive young high school student, Kyle, performing and all that stuff in the audience. He did well, especially for a high school play. Like, he's pretty engaging and very like you can see a lot of talent there,
charismatic,
all that
stage
stuff.
presence.
Yeah, like really good. Not what you're expecting with a high school play, which is a bunch of people nervously reciting the lines they memorized and kind of emoting. And I kind of felt like the energy toward him and all that stuff. And like I literally said to myself, I can do that.
Yeah.
And I think that little nugget of thought has permeated a lot of the times that I'm motivated, not all the time, but a lot of times I'm motivated to do something creative or artistic, but not necessarily art. Look at the results they're getting. I can do that.
At that moment, his name was Kyle, you said?
Kyle, yeah.
Fucking Kyle. No. At that moment, though, right? Everybody is he's magnetic.
Yes.
Everybody is...
Including me. I'm like...
right. The whole auditorium.
This
So you're getting this effect of this massive crowd of people, and they're looking at him, and they're saying, wow, that's spectacular. And you are taking in all of that energy, even if you don't realize it. You're taking that in, right? And you're going, I want that.
Yeah.
I want all of this attention on me. And I can do that. It's the same kind of thing as, looking at the Millionaire. You're watching the
Yes, that's exactly.
You're watching The Millionaire. You're walking through town, and the millionaire is out, and your wife makes a comment, and you're like, I can be that guy.
Yeah, I am that guy. I'm just memorizing some words on a piece of paper away from me being the recipient of that energy and that adoration or whatever.
Yeah. And then just to like circle that back around to the point.
Yeah.
If that's the framework that you're approaching art from or the work from, you're immediately it's not a relevant study of anything, because you're not asking actual questions that you need answers to, and then the only way to achieve that is through the medium that you're choosing to explore the question with. You are saying, how can I right, you're putting on a costume.
Yeah,
art is your costume.
Yeah,
you're building a brand.
I'm gonna use these forms to achieve to get these results. And so circling back to the documentary is, again, fear, conditions of actually creating. But then do I sit there and I basically analyze what the potential outcomes are of devoting myself for weeks and weeks and weeks to making this, and go, this isn't going to get me the results I want. So why bother?
This isn't going to bring me fame and and that,
And so this goes back to
is
Rick
this the
Rubin's
Rubin book?
Yeah.
Let me just like, do you save that, because that'll ground us. Do you think then that, like, could it be that you approached Ted Snow with the wrong intentions in the first place? And look,
I think if I look back on it, and I would need to think about this a little bit more to really like deploy some self-awareness to think through my response to that.
Yeah.
But it's certainly, I think immediately in talking to Ted on the street and all that stuff, and then thinking about it in the drive afterwards and all that, and then I called you and we had all that. I think I feel a genuine attraction to what could be here.
Yeah.
And even if I wasn't thinking about the results I would get if it came together in a successful documentary that went on the festival circuit or had this, and I'd get all these results or whatever that feed my ego, I think I immediately start because this is another element of maybe why it hasn't gotten done, I start fantasizing about what he's going to say.
Yeah.
What are we going to find out about him?
Yeah.
And you start spinning.
Well, you almost had a story in
this-
your head going into the thing of like, this is the story that's going to come from it. Because I remember you and I, we both did.
Or just the vibe. Like
Yeah.
I was like, this is going to be like this musical genius who just hasn't been discovered, and he's going to have this
Yeah.
like incredibly grounded, soulful
Well, you were
outlook on things.
trying to explain to yourself the myth that you surround your brother's persona with through somebody else, which is normal. Like, I think that's, that is a noble intention of art,
right?
Is you have something a story, a metaphor that you want to explain. And then if you find a proxy for that, using that proxy effectively to demonstrate that metaphor, I think that's absolutely a noble approach to art. And then, but I think what might have happened is you had that other stuff as the fallback, that festival. And when we learned that, the narrative that we were playing in our head wasn't necessarily the narrative that we got, or wasn't the narrative that we got, maybe you fall back on some of that secondary stuff. We got to stop turning these into therapy sessions. But this is a good.
But I think that's such a big part of it when we're asking. I mean, you ask a question, when's a good time to make art? I mean, first of all, art can be therapy for people. Whether now if they're using it as like, I'm going to make this art because it makes me feel better. This is part of the through line, the spine of a lot of these episodes is the true motivation behind it, ego versus selflessness. All the things that bring what we're making and why we're making it to the table. And I think it's okay for us to have these realizations potentially about ourselves, why we do and don't do something. I mean, you were talking about that stuff, and I literally went back to something I had not thought about in years.
Yeah.
Me watching him up there going, I can do that.
I can do that. Yeah.
But why though? So this quote from the book, and I took a picture of it because I'm like, do I do this?
Yeah.
Is this me? This is from Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act, A Way of Being.
Yeah.
If we can tune into the idea of making things and sharing them without being attached to the outcome or the results, in my mind, the work is more likely to arrive in its truest form. And that's what we've talked about all the time is, especially for me, if I am using a photography YouTube channel, if I am using documentary filmmaking, if I'm using acting, if I'm using screenwriting to achieve these lottery ticket-like results, wealth, fame, adoration, getting ranked in a list of whatever, all that stuff. I mean, you're full of shit, and whatever you make, you're gonna.
Whatever you make is gonna reflect that.
Is gonna reflect
attitude.
that, and there's, there's nothing less truthful than you hijacking art for your own ego-motivated bullshit.
It had been a golden afternoon, and I remember having the familiar conviction that life was beginning over again with the sunrise.